Is it a sign of desperation or smart politics? Faced with somber polls that Doug Ford's Conservatives could win a majority in the upcoming election, the Liberals introduced part of their election campaign in an 18-page throne speech. Essentially, they're promising more money for health and education, and they're also promising to be a caring government.
In the 2018 budget, you will see major investments in the services you need: healthcare, home care, mental health and addictions, and childcare.
This is how the Liberal government wants to win your vote, by promising more money to cut hospital wait times, expand home care services for seniors, and financial relief for those caring for aging family members. There will also be more money for mental health and addiction. Free pharmacare and tuition will be expanded, and childcare costs lowered. Now, the throne speech promises to lighten the load for families and ease their financial burden. There are no shiny new baubles in the throne speech. Essentially, it's keeping the Liberals on the same path. Now, the opposition is having a heyday with it because the Liberals are reconfirming there's going to be an $8 billion deficit.
We all see that this was just a ploy of the highest order. There's absolutely no substance. The only thing that she needs to spend money for is to try to save her job. That's the only thing that she's willing to put the people of Ontario at financial risk to save her job.
If you're willing to possibly go into the red, because you're not ruling it out, how can you trash the Liberals for going in the red?
It's very easy, Cynthia. The Liberals have decided that they were going to balance their books last year. They promised they would balance their books this year. With Kathleen Wynne in almost single digits in popularity, the Liberals have now decided to plunge this province into an $8 billion deficit. They have doubled down on that deficit number as of today, and therefore I think most Ontarians will look at this as cynical. They'll say to us and they'll say to others that if the Liberals really cared about long-term care, if they really cared about mental health, if they really cared about post-secondary education, then this Liberal government would have done something about it in the previous 15 years before.
At a time when your polls are so incredibly low, aren't you just handing a win to the Conservatives on a silver platter?
Well, as I said, there'll be we're a balanced budget. We have a surplus this year. Going forward next year, we're going to have a modest deficit in order to make these decisions and these choices that Ontarians would like us to make.
So $8 billion is modest?
We are saying that, and you'll have more to hear on March 28th in terms of what the scope will be.
The Liberals are hoping to turn the channel with a pre-election reset. They introduced the bones of their election platform today in a throne speech. Essentially, they're promising more care, more money for childcare, more money for health and education. And today, I spoke after the throne speech with Kathleen Wynne. We stood right here and talked at length, and in particular about a line in the throne speech about childcare and about Doug Ford. What did you mean about lowering the cost for childcare? Are we looking at a Quebec-style system in the budget coming up?
This is Ontario. It'll be, for the budget to lay out. But we know that affordability in childcare is a huge concern.
Does the thought of Premier Doug Ford send a shiver up your spine? There's no love lost between you.
We have very different perspectives on exactly what we're talking about. He believes that people can fend for themselves. He just has to cut taxes. I have a very different perspective. I think people need support and that we need to put more of that support in place.
Is it keeping you up at night, though? Come on, you've seen the polls.
You know what? Honestly, what keeps me up at night is finding the right balance of supports to put in place, because there is so much that needs to be done.
And joining me now for more on this is political strategist Jim Warren. Jim, was this much ado about very little?
A Shakespeare play, it would be much ado about nothing. So we didn't see a lot of new content. What we saw was some strategic maneuvering. Premier Wynne has this idea she is in government, she is the existing premier, so I think she was trying to do two things: turn the channel on Doug Ford, so they have had some wind in their sails with the leadership, so start to put it sort of back on her home court, and then also sort of make a blow to the NDP. The NDP sort of gave one of their marquee announcements, which was today on the dental care, and so again she's trying to keep the focus on herself. There's not a lot of new things, but there was sort of process that you had to cover today, and all the media covered a throne speech because it is a big deal.
What does she have to gain by by obliterating the NDP. I mean, shouldn't her battle be with Doug Ford?
So her trick, her bag of tricks last time in the last campaign which worked, was she ate Andrew Horwath's lunch.
Yes.
She really outflanked the NDP. We saw Justin Trudeau copy that in the last election. He did the same thing, went after Mulcair. So I think she's saying, listen, I'm almost conceding that sort of right-wing vote, and I'm going to look for people who are sort of center-left, definitely that sort of NDP vote, and get all that vote together. Because she's not trying to get 50% of votes, she's trying to get around 37%, and that's all she needs to sort of try and get back into power.
It seems like the tide has turned, though, against the Liberals. You talk to many people on the street. They're tired of this party that's almost 15 years old and all the baggage that inevitably comes with a government that's been in power that long. Can she turn things around?
You know, it's quite remarkable. And you think of where Justin Trudeau was 2 months before the federal election in 2015. People were saying Liberals should just give up. They should merge with the NDP, and there's really no more federal Liberal Party. And now he's got this huge majority. So the thing about elections is campaigns matter. Anything can happen in an election. So the Premier does have 15 years of problems because there's 15 years of government. But you just never know. She's the comeback kid. She won her riding against John Tory. She won the leadership when she wasn't going to do it, and she won this last election. Does she have one more rabbit in her hat? That's a tough one to pull off.
Yes.
But you never know. We could see her do it yet again.
Would part of their strategy be hoping that Doug Ford implodes?
That's exactly what they're going to have to hope for. Just like when some issues with Hudak and he had that 100,000 cuts, they have to hope that he's going to run out this marathon that he's in of the leadership and now the campaign, that he'll slip up and make some mistakes. I wouldn't count on it, but that's really their only hope. That's a bit of a Hail Mary pass for them.
All right, Jim Warren, thanks very much as always.
Thanks, Cynthia.
And you can watch my entire interview with Kathleen Wynne, uncut, raw, on citynews.ca.